Human health is already today affected by the climate crisis. Indeed, an increase of 1.1 degrees compared to pre-industrial levels has already been observed. With that comes an increased pressure on land and marine ecosystems that has a direct and indirect influence on the goods and services provided by ecosystems to human health. Let's go and meet our Earth's fellow citizen and see what it feels like. The hotter it's becoming, the harder it is to work. Workers are losing money because of their reduced capacities to work in a hot climate. Because of the hot weather, people need air cooling. The technology used for air cooling is pretty unsustainable. The air pumped from the outside is unhealthy. It contains air pollution, urban heat, and greenhouse gas emissions. This air has a negative effect on human health. In 2019, it was estimated that over 190,000 people died because of air conditioning for indoor cooling. Millions of people are suffering from rising sea levels. That leads to forced migration. People's homes become inhabitable. There is a major increase in the number of dengue cases. The main drivers are global mobility, urbanization, ecosystem disturbances, and climate change. Those are some overview examples on how the climate crisis is already affecting human health. However, human health depends also on the environment and animal health. This is what is called One Health. But for the moment, we will focus on human health and how it is impacted by the climate crisis. As a first insight, we will dig into physical health. Climate change is increasing starvation, which we can observe in Madagascar. Although the people from Madagascar only contributed to 0.01% of the total CO2 emissions from 1922 to 2019. In Madagascar, there are 1.14 million people who are food insecure and over 14,000 that are suffering from famine. Because of the climate crisis, there is a huge drought in Madagascar. Since 4 years, they have almost had no rain in the south of the country, meaning that fields and harvests aren't giving food anymore. The vegetation is drying out, and rivers and lakes have dried up. That leads to a decline of the production from staple food like rice and manioc. Also, they don't have enough water anymore. Especially clean drinking water is nowhere to be found. It shows that basic needs in Madagascar are not secured at all. They have no more water, food, and their health is also not good. It could be the world's first climate change-induced famine, according to the United Nations. We looked at this issue from a human health perspective, but it is also important to notice that not only humans are suffering from the climate crisis. Animals are also impacted when food is nowhere to be found and water becomes rare. Madagascar is quite far from Switzerland. How are Swiss people aware of this issue?
Kannst du dir vorstellen, dass die Klimakrise eine Hungersnot auslösen kann?
Absolut, ja.
Ja.
Ja, also das sieht man jetzt schon eben, wenn Felder überschwemmt werden an den Küsten, dann kann man dort nicht was anbauen.
Dürre, in vielen Ländern, wo Dürre ist, das ist vorher auch weniger gewesen.
Ja.
Gesellschaft, so wie wir heute darin leben, das Ungleichgewicht weiter fördern. Das heißt, solange diese Ungerechtigkeit weiter bestehen bleibt, wird natürlich auch die Gefahr von Hungerkrisen immer größer.
Wenn so viel heiß, viele Leute sterben wegen das immer, wenn das Wetter gut, die Leute immer sehr gesund.
Ja.
Wow, those passerby really brought some interesting points in Oerlikon. The physical impacts are getting more and more visible, also in high-income countries. Remember last summer in Germany, Belgium, and Switzerland how we got flooded? However, what is going on in people's minds? How is their mental health affected? Their mental health can be directly and indirectly affected. As a direct impact, acute traumatic stress is the most common mental health problem after a natural disaster, for example. People directly impacted suffer from solastalgia. Nowadays, natural disasters are becoming more intense and frequent due to climate change. However, people not directly facing climate-related disasters can also have their mental health impacted by climate change. Eco-anxiety can be described as the chronic fear of environmental cataclysm that comes from observing the seemingly irrevocable impact of climate change and the associated concern for one's future and that of next generations, according to the American Psychology Association. People suffering from eco-anxiety might feel negative emotions like fear, depression, sadness, or hopelessness. Symptoms are slight cases of anxiety, stress, sleep disturbances, nervousness, etc. In a recent study, 60% of young people felt very or extremely worried about climate change. Children experience an additional layer of confusion, betrayal, and abandonment because of adult inactions towards climate change. Eco-anxiety creates also physical impacts like a rise in the cortisol levels, a weaker immune system, and problems with aggressivity management, which then lead to a decrease in community health. Are also Swiss people suffering from climate anxiety or feeling some strong emotions related to climate change?
I feel some sadness, maybe a little bit of depression, or like I definitely feel some mental effects of the environment on the mental health. Yeah.
Ich glaube, das ist schon etwas, was eher jüngere Leute betrifft. Gerade auch, weil es ja unsere Zukunft ist, wo ich glaube, ältere Leute werden weniger davon mitbekommen als es wir. Und auch so. Ich habe die Hoffnung, dass wir es noch packen irgendwie. Aber ja, manchmal keine Ahnung, ist man halt schon hoffnungslos, wenn man denkt so, boah, wie sollen wir das schaffen? Ja. Und ja, gerade auch wenn du siehst, wie langsam das gewisse Sachen vorangehen, wie weit man hinken für gewisse Sachen.
Es wird ein bisschen bewusster zu leben.
Ja.
Ich schlafe jede Nacht schlecht.
Wirklich?
Ich glaube, dass das Hauptproblem ist, dass die Menschen einfach nicht bereit sind, einen Rückschritt im Komfort anzunehmen. Ja. Aber das wäre nötig.